Professional soccer has sprung up across the United States in the past decade or so. Outside the bright lights of Major League Soccer, these smaller, community-focused teams are proving to be a hit with fans in some markets. For Greenville Triumph SC and Greenville Liberty SC, there has been success both on and off the pitch, along with some significant challenges. From building a new soccer-specific stadium to working with legends of the sport to educating the local community on just what pro soccer is and can be, this is a remarkable journey, and a journey in which the destination remains a bit of an unknown. I'm Cheyenne Hollis, and welcome to the first episode of the Touchback's World on Sport. Let's not call it a podcast. Let's just say it's a somewhat formal discussion on sports-related topics. And today, we are speaking with Doug Erwin. He is the Chief Branding Officer and Vice Chairman of the Greenville Triumph and Greenville Liberty. And we are going to go over the triumphs and challenges of building a soccer club down south. The world, it's a big place. Sport, it's a big part of that big place. I should know, having been around the globe a time or two myself, yet so many topics go uncovered, so many stories untold, which is why we are here. I'm Cheyenne Hollis, and this is the Touchback's World on Sport. What is Greenville like in upstate South Carolina like as just a soccer market? Because I don't think it is the first place American soccer fans would think about when they think club soccer.
Yeah. Greenville's actually got a surprisingly great soccer scene, and one that's, I feel like improved across the last couple decades. Funny timing for that question. Over the weekend, 5-6 days ago, Furman University, which is where we currently play our games, just had a jersey retirement ceremony for Clint Dempsey, the most prominent Furman soccer alum by leaps and bounds. So, there's some credibility that comes with having one of the greatest national team players ever play his college career here in Greenville. Greenville is a very fast-growing, dynamic city. Really, the upstate South Carolina as a whole. For those not local, we're halfway between Charlotte and Atlanta, and a city that has kind of become defined by international business and the automotive industry. So I think a lot of the international influence that we've seen across the last 20-30 years has helped the game grow here, with BMW and Michelin, amongst many others, putting their North American headquarters here. And from a youth standpoint, youth soccer participation is just out of control in the best way possible. We've got 8,000 or 9,000 players just in the upstate alone. South Carolina as a whole, in the 2015-2020 was the second fastest growing state for youth soccer participation in the country. And I haven't seen updated numbers, but I assume that's the same. So it's definitely a part of the country where youth soccer is growing, and we're kind of growing from the ground up, certainly. And that was, when we started the Triumph, kind of completing that pyramid to bring professional soccer to the upstate.
The Triumph kickoff in 2019, what has the process been like from, obviously that starts a year, 18 months before then, but you have the process of getting the team ready to launch and then growing it over the years. So just what has that process been like?
Yeah, fascinating process, and definitely a lot of kind of market education involved in, certainly in the soccer pyramid, which I know is not the most straightforward thing to understand if you're not, closely tied into the game. One of the things that really benefited us early on, even before we kicked the ball in 2019, when we announced in 2018, that was I hate to say the heyday, because it's not that long ago, but Atlanta United had such a successful launch in 2017, and a real fervor from that extended Georgia, South Carolina, all the way up in North Carolina, because this was before Charlotte FC quickly followed. But there was that kind of Atlanta fever, and the match day atmosphere in Atlanta, I think, was so authentic to soccer and the South, in that yes, it brought the sport, it brought international players. There was early success, but there was also the tailgating atmosphere that you might find in college football, and I think a lot of people in the South related to that. So I do think it was a time where Atlanta quickly established that, hey, we're going to be authentic to the game, but we're also going to be authentic to Atlanta. They did a really great job with that. So I feel like they kind of helped some of that market education for us, because even people who weren't soccer fans kind of knew what was going on in Atlanta because so many people were talking about it. So on the heels of that, we just had to come in and tell people about what we were, what level we are. No, we're not beholden to a major league soccer team. We're an independent team that's focused on winning championships. But there had been a lot of grassroots support in Greenville, and that's one of the reasons we decided to start the team. Is there was a really good American Outlaws chat, and still is a really good American Outlaws chapter. There were a lot of people that were pushing for pro soccer. There was a petition with over 1,000 signatures. So we felt like we had that kind of core fan base ready and waiting for us when we made the decision to bring soccer here.
It's interesting you talk about the size of youth soccer and then building up the pyramid, because Sacramento actually had something similar. In the early 90s, they had 100,000 plus youth soccer players, but it obviously took some time to get to the professional level. And just for that region, upstate South Carolina, what does it mean to be able to complete that pyramid, to have that strong youth participation, but now having everything all the way up to a professional club team?
I would say it's huge, but I don't know that we've even all the way tapped into it yet. I think that's kind of the fun thing is we've so the grassroots level obviously bottom up, but only got to a certain point. We're kind of building from the top down. We didn't come in with a youth academy. We've ended up partnering with the largest academy in the upstate. So I think that's been the unique thing about it is we've been trying to connect the pro game to the youth levels and give people that full pathway to pro. So, certainly the all of the youth organizations in the upstate were really excited to have pro soccer, but only the last couple of years have we really started to establish, hey, when you're done with your club career at the top level, there is a path to this. And at some point, I think we'd love to, on the men's side, look into League Two or a closer affiliation with a League Two team, so that we can really complete that pathway. We've done a good job of that on the women's side with the Liberty, helping build opportunities for some of the elite youth talent there. But it's something that's still a work in progress, and I think we've all seen the pitfalls of some teams around the country that have come in and tried to dictate the youth scene from the second they've launched a team. And that's a tough thing to do. Youth soccer is big business too, and we respect that. And there are people that have spent a lot longer than we've spent building the Triumph. They've spent building a great youth organization. So we came in with a really collaborative approach of wanting to work with the youth organizations to kind of grow that, and it's something we're still working on every day.
It's interesting you mentioned collaboration, because that's obviously a huge part of your goals. Your organization is just collaborating across the board with all stakeholders. So for someone who may not be familiar with the collaborative approach in the USL, especially at the USL 1 level, just take us through how you sort of manage and balance and build all of these different collaborations, because you guys have quite a few of them, and it's similar to all of the clubs in that part of the pyramid.
Yeah, a lot of it is just it's relationship based. It's hiring people that know people and have good relationships with people, so we don't have to go and create them. I think that's it's a testament to the staff we've been able to build over the years, both on the technical side and in the front office side, of people that have come from some of these youth organizations or some sponsors or colleges in the area that our coach on the men's side, Rick Wright, I, I always joke, knows everyone who is anyone in upstate soccer. Rick has been a coach at the youth level, at the college level for uh, 30 plus years, and is just a great guy and has built relationships that way. Julie, our head coach for the Liberty, same thing, has worked with a lot of these organizations, and I think there's establishing credibility as an entirely new organization is always a challenge, and I think we've been able to do that quickly just through those authentic relationships, and it makes collaboration a lot easier. And I think it's at the end of the day is living the mission of, hey, we want to grow the game, and we're not just saying that. And sometimes we're going to make decisions that might not make sense to some people and might not even make sense to people in our office, but it's about growing the game, um, because we know that that's the most important thing we can do for success is get more people interested in soccer. And that doesn't always have to be, hey, come out to a Triumph game, hey, come out to a Liberty game right away. It's let's get you out to camp or clinic. We're not going to go hard sell you on season tickets yet. We just want you to interact with the sport.
Let's talk about growth because that seems to be a buzzword throughout the USL right now. It's growth, and you'll see a lot of the times, and even I kind of find myself championing this, like, let's grow it, let's get it going. But obviously you need to find ways to balance ambition and that desire for growth to making sure it's sustainable over the long haul. So how do you strike the right balance between your ambitions and what you want the club to be down the road versus making sure everything has a solid foundation which you can keep building upon?
Yeah, that's a great question, and patience is key. Just like anybody with any business, you sit around and you dream up all these ideas, right? We have an idea where we want to be ultimately, and there are a lot of dollars involved in that, and it's sustainability is huge, and sustainability is difficult in minor league soccer, in any minor league sport. We often say nobody gets in this business to make a ton of money, and but I think again, it starts with a good staff, starts with a good technical staff, good front office staff. On the field, starts with a good group of players, but it's all the things that a fan might not see on a match day. It's your training facility. It's having a front office where everybody can be in and collaborate. It's building those relationships, and not just going out and trying to sell a sponsorship to anybody with a pulse who will pick up the phone. It's getting the right partners. It's getting people that are committed to the mission, that are outside of your organization, that are going to champion your organization in the community. I think that's important, and we've been really lucky to have a lot of business leaders in the community champion this cause. I'm sure we'll talk stadium stuff in a bit. We've been lucky to have some government entities champion this cause too, and just living your mission and having other people buy into it is huge. We always say we are a mission-based organization. I touched on this a little bit a minute ago, but we want to create joy and unity through the world's game. That's our mission, simply put. And to do that, there's financial lift involved, certainly from our organization. There's financial lift involved from our fans. I know it's a sacrifice to buy season tickets to a sports team, and we're appreciative for that. So I think just being authentic is the key, because I think in American soccer there have been plenty of instances where supporters have been able to see right through organizations, both at the MLS and at the minor league level, and that it can all crash and burn pretty quickly when that's the case.
Yeah, we all know plenty of examples. No need to name names there, but I think viewers can get the well, they can figure it out for themselves. It's a journey. This process is a journey, and in today's world, we always view everything in the here and now. We really have lost. You mentioned patience. We don't have patience, and we don't necessarily have perspective. Building a team, any sort of team, major league, minor league, it's decades. It's not done in a few years. So how do you keep the eye on that journey and making sure you're not focused on next year and the year after, but you're really looking a decade ahead, 20 years ahead? And just how is that sort of coalesce around your mission and everything you're doing right now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I feel like almost for the entire time we've been building this organization, the look ahead was to 2026, because the US is going to host the World Cup, and soccer awareness in America is going to be at its highest since 94 or since Pele. And yeah, as we're around the corner from that now, yes, we want to focus on 26, but it's more important what happens after 26, right? And how do you capitalize on that when the World Cup ends, and certainly into the next handful of years after that and beyond. Uh, the stadium project, I think, is a huge part of that, and it's part of that for any club. Getting a forever home is big to certainly to your profit and loss, but also just to being able to plant the flag and let people know we're here to stay. But I think that the hardest part is that you got to think about that while you also have to look 5 feet in front of you, because there's so many opportunities to grow the team throughout the years and each day, each week, and you don't want to pass those up because you're looking too long term. So I think the short answer is I don't know. We're still trying to figure it out. But I think it's just the thing that keeps us grounded and focused on the future is how much we believe in the growth of this game, and how much you see World Cup 26 or not, how much this sport has grown. You look at the youth participation, you look at what the um, Messi and Ronaldo have done for kids paying attention to the game around the country across the last 15 years. The FIFA video game, now the AFC video game series, and how big that's been for the US. And the arrow is pointing up, and for us, I think the focus is just, let's make sure we are rising with the tide of that in whatever way it takes within financial reason.
Okay, so there are a couple of threads I want to pull on here. I know
Sure.
everyone's really interested in the stadium, and we'll get to the stadium in due course, but I want to talk about 2026 and capturing that World Cup, the rising tide of the World Cup, because famously, America dropped the ball in 94 after 94, because it's 94, and then the MLS doesn't show up until 2 years later, and that was less than ideal. So just hearing from your standpoint in where you guys are at as a club, how are you going to make sure you don't squander that opportunity when the World Cup comes, and there's going to be a lot of people looking not just at the MLS, but they're going to be looking down the road. They're going to be looking for their hometown club, and that you are providing that option. So how do you capture this and not squander it like we saw in 94?
Yeah, I think for us, we've got a little bit of a leg up, because we'll be, in a new stadium, getting into a new stadium about that time next year. So there's kind of a natural for people in Greenville and the upstate of, hey, you're paying attention to the World Cup. Well, check this out. There's a pro team in town, and not just check this out. We have a new stadium. It is going to be reminding people there's a pro team in town, because you're always fighting an awareness battle. You're always trying to get more people to find out about you. We're not too big for our shoes to think that everybody in Greenville knows about us. I think if you asked our baseball team and our hockey team, which have each been around more than a decade, they would tell you they're fighting awareness battles too. That's Greenville, and you got people moving to the city every day, that you got to educate and re-educate about the team. So I think it's the key is going to be just relating it back to affordable family fun and entertainment, and creating memories. So I think what we've got to focus on, and what was always, I think, one of our early successes, is if we could get you out to a game, we had 100% confidence you're coming back to a second game. The challenge is getting you out to that game. So it's all about game day experience. It's stadium experience. And that's been a challenge. Stadium experience has, as we've been in two kind of temporary stadiums. So I think for us, the pressure is really just on, we're hoping that the World Cup will hook people to coming out to that first game, because they'll be curious. And if we can get them to have a great time when they come out, then we've done our part, and now we've capitalized on that, and they're going to come back. And then they might not all buy season tickets, but if they come back 2-3 times a year, that's great too.
So we've danced around it. Let's talk about the new stadium. Groundbreaking happened earlier this year. Greenville is famous. The minor league baseball team has the replica of the Green Monster in Fenway Park. Your stadium probably going to be a little more unique. It's not just going to rip off some other existing soccer stadium. It's going to be its own thing. But just tell us about your new venue. That just, when's it going to open? how is it going to look like? What's the vibe going to be? Because you also picked a very interesting location for it.
Yeah. So our stadium's going to open sometime in 2026. We don't have exact info on that yet. We're flying a plane as we're building it. But fret not. We got a lot of smart people helping us do that. But we've started construction across the last few weeks. We've really gotten into some of the site work now that the initial grading's done, and pretty soon, hopefully in early October, we'll be really starting to get underway with construction. And it's a spot in town that, no, it's not in the downtown core, which I know makes people pause for a second. Our downtown core is small. It is hard to find enough land to build a soccer stadium right in downtown, that has the proximity that we want. And the kind of reference that we make is Atlanta Braves on this. The Braves have been written about all over the country, and their success. Now, the model's a little different, but because we're working with a developer, we are not the developer like the Braves were. But the live, work, play concept of, hey, if you're going to go outside of downtown core, you need to be located still in a major traffic area where there's a lot of body heat, and you also create the body heat by having shops, restaurants, bars, etc., right around your venue. It's an incredible success for the Braves, and we hope to have a smaller scale of that in Bridgeway Station in Malden, which is just over 10 minutes outside of downtown Greenville, but right on one of our major highways and right in the backyard of where you see a lot of the income heat maps showing as the hottest kind of suburbs just outside of Greenville. So as far as what the stadium is, we're getting really close to having renderings come out, but it's going to be great to finally have a home and also a soccer specific stadium. I look at our first stadium for 4 years at Legacy Early College, which was great and was soccer specific, but it was also temporarily constructed. And then for the last couple of years, we've been playing in a football stadium, which is the stadium has been great, but it's not a professional soccer stadium at the end of the day. So there have been challenges there. So I think that the things I'm looking forward to the most are getting some of those the intimacy back of what we had in terms of sight lines at Legacy Early College, getting fans back closer to the field, getting our supporter section back behind the goal, like it was at Legacy, and just a truer lower level USL soccer experience. And then as far as what stadium is going to look like, it is going to be unique. The development we're going in is a kind of mid-century Italian design that the developer Hughes Investments has put together. And I think from the outside, it's going to be unique. It's going to fit into the design language of Bridgeway Station. But from the inside, it's going to be a soccer stadium. There's a field, there's seats, there's club areas, there's a bar, there's standing area. So I think that anybody who might be a little apprehensive about the uniqueness of the design, that's aesthetic. But what we're focused on is delivering a great soccer viewing experience, and that makes us excited to show renderings soon and get people in there in a number of months. I almost committed to a number of months. I'm not going to commit to an exact number of months because I'm not in construction.
So this actually brings up a very fascinating point, because a lot of times with stadium developments, it's renderings, it's get people excited, it's announcing a deadline, and then it's like, okay, can we hit it? Probably not. And then it's delayed, and then a bunch of other crazy nonsense happens. You guys have kind of taken a different approach to that, where you haven't shown the public, hey, this is what we're going to build, and this is when we're going to build it. And why did you adopt this approach as opposed to doing what we see a lot of? And I mean, as a Sacramentan, I can tell you about seeing renderings and going to groundbreakings and being heartbroken in the end. So tell us a little bit about that process and how you sort of upended the mold, I guess you could say, as far as building your stadium.
Well, Cheyenne, you're giving me too much credit. You're giving us too much credit.
Obviously, it's your team.
Yeah, no, would love to say that's intentional, but I'm not trying to, and we're not trying to put out some sort of PR masterclass on the real way to do it. Some of it is just that the size, scope, and actual location within the development has been changing a lot. And what we didn't want to do, to your point, is get out a rendering and a change, get out another rendering and a change. We know there's always some of that, but I think for us, it's really trying to dial in what the scope looks like. Some of it is timeline based on, we want to get in there sooner rather than later. And if that means we have to phase some stuff, we'll face some stuff. We want a home, our fans want a home. So I think that's been kind of the challenge of a lot of it is getting that dialed in enough to where we feel like we could put out a rendering that we feel is close. I think to date we've only put out one rendering, and that was a couple of years ago. The first time we talked about the site, and that rendering, none of that is even applicable anymore. That was during COVID, I think. So. Some of it, like I said, has been because we're building the plane as we're flying it, but also there definitely is some of that, to our fans. Hey, we want it as much as we can. What we show is what we get. And I think as we've been trying to figure out the scope, working through the development agreement, which I've not participated in a three-party development agreement before. That document probably took 18 months maybe to complete, not for anything malicious or anything, just that's how long such a complex agreement can take to get done. So I think a lot of that has been, and we're not trying to hide information from the public or anything. It's just a slow process, and I think I have a lot more respect for that now. And I think being on this side of the process, but being a huge sports fan now, I see, as you talked about Sacramento and some of these other stadium situations we see that tend to take a little longer. It's just a long process, and it's always going to be like that unless you're a sole party where you have the land, you're the developer, you have all the financing yourself, which we've seen sometime at the major league levels. But you also see the dangers and the pitfalls of it. I feel like the Oakland A's are kind of the poster child, unfortunately, for how difficult it can be. And I'm glad we're not that. But it's just not a process you can rush, and I have a lot more respect for that now, being on the side of it.
Let's talk about the development, because you said it's a three-party agreement. This isn't your run-of-the-mill, hey, we're building a stadium, let's just do it. There's a lot of nuance in it. So why did you choose this approach? Why are you working with the developer, and how does this benefit the club as opposed to some of the other pathways you could have chosen?
Sure. Well, I'll talk about why we worked with both parties. Why we worked with the developer. We do not have a real estate background. Our ownership does not have a real estate background. Um, we definitely, I think, one of the strengths of our ownership group and our organization as a whole is, we don't have much of an ego, and we are happy to say that we don't know what we don't know. So getting someone who does this every day was important for us. Getting a stadium consultancy group to help us through this as well. They're not specifically a party in the development agreement, but McCullough Sports Group, which has worked on a number of soccer stadiums around the country, big and small. Um, the guys at McCullers are incredible. They've been a huge help of educating us throughout this process while advocating for it. Um, Hughes Investments, great piece of property, great development. We see the vision for the development. We think the area that it's in is a winner. And from a financing standpoint, we're not Jerry Jones. We're not a major sports ownership that can finance stadium ourselves. So we do need that help. So it was finding a developer who could bring something to the table, in this case, land, and a governmental entity that wanted to have us and was willing to financially participate. The city of Malden, as well, was important for us. And public-private partnerships we strongly believe in, and everyone having a stake in it is how you make one of these things work. Again, if we could afford to build a stadium on our own without any help, we would do it. We're not going to just cry out for public dollars without without the need for it, like happens in a lot of major league sports. So finding those parties that not even necessarily we approach, some of them approached us, that were really interested in this. I think that's big too. And just the mutual success that all the parties can achieve. We know that this development at Bridgeway Station was going to be a great development, but their interest was, they know that we can lift their development for them. Bringing a stadium to it is only going to help them from attracting businesses, attracting residents. The city of Malden, which already has, a great kind of suburban neighborhood feel, but was kind of missing some of those destinations because it has been known more as a bedroom community. They were looking for kind of a downtown area, so they were really interested in having a team in their backyard. And so again, going back to, I think just a multi-party agreement is you're all bringing something to the table, but you're all really interested in the other two parties succeeding. That's important. I think we've got that, and I think that's a recipe for success.
No, this wasn't the first proverbial go round with the stadium. It's been a fairly long, well, I don't want to say fairly long because I mean, it's all relative, but it was a longer process. You guys did suffer setbacks early on. So,
Yep.
just for people who may not be familiar with it, can you talk us a little bit about that first attempt and maybe what went wrong there, or not necessarily what went wrong, but why that didn't work and why this one has been successful?
Yeah, and Malden's not the only site we looked at either. So there have been other sites that we've gotten close with as well that we had setbacks with, or there's no one thing. Sometimes there were financial setbacks where we thought either another developer or another governmental entity was going to bring some money to the table, and then that changed, and so we had to pull back from that. From the Bridgeway standpoint, I think it was just getting the timing right, and there was always interest, and the interest never waned. It was about timing and financing, and getting a development agreement that we all felt good about, and you. I think some of it too was it was we had talked to Bridgeway Station before they had really gotten going. And we came back, and now phase one of Bridgeway is open, and they've got apartments and offices and a couple restaurants in there and everything. And it is becoming a destination, and it made more sense. And to put it simply, I think it was just timing, and all parties feeling good about the timing and where each other were. Um, Within things, and COVID certainly put a pause on a lot of stuff, as it did for many organizations. So uh, again, I don't think there's too specific an answer, but I would say that when we looked at Bridgeway the first time, and then we went away, and there were some other sites we were looking at. There was one site specifically that that I think we all felt was also a good site. I don't know that we ever ranked it above, below, the same as Bridgeway or anything, but it was a very intriguing proposition. But that didn't end up panning out. Not for any malicious reason, again, just because at the end of the day, the timing wasn't right for them. And we got to a point where, okay, now we're ready to go. We want to go. We need to go. And we re-engaged with Bridgeway, and they said, "Hey, we're ready. We want to go. We need to go." And City of Malden said the same thing, and just a bunch of different factors that got us all on the same page. And we're so happy that we ended up kind of back where we started, because I think it's where we were meant to be all along.
And it'll be exciting, date to be determined, but it'll certainly be excited when it does open next year. One of the things you've mentioned so far, you've talked about community, you've talked about destination, and that brings us to maybe some more overarching societal themes where we sort of lament the loss of community. We lament the loss of Main Street in many of our towns. And we're seeing the contraction in minor league baseball now as well. How does a club like the Greenville Triumph and the Greenville Liberty, how can they maybe bring both back to a city like Greenville and to really the entire upstate South Carolina area?
Yeah, it's a good point, and it's a good challenge. I think a lot of it is what you do the 345 days a year when you're not playing home games. Is being in the market, connecting with people, at schools, at businesses, at farmers markets, and having a community presence. One of the advantages we have, with our clubs that, um, over the baseball team, the hockey team, most other minor league sports, is because our players are not beholden to a major league organization. They're in market a lot more. There's more roster continuity year over year. And a lot of them stick around in the off season or part of the off season. And the ones that have been with us for a handful of years, they're becoming known in the community. They have their social circles in the community. So I think there's some of that, that is just authentic, and I think helps build that feel. I think a lot of it is just, it goes back to that game day, atmosphere, and focusing on being welcoming and inviting people in, and doing something that is authentic to the region. I think some of that ties into our branding and why our teams are called the Triumph and Liberty. With ties to the region for both of those names, and um, just but again, I think the beauty of minor league sports is accessibility to players, accessibility to coaches, accessibility to front office. As I sit, below a Washington Nationals poster, if I don't, if I don't like something that the team did, I can't go call the president and tell him that. If I want to meet a player, I can't just go pop down to the field and say hi to James Wood or anything like that. It's not so easy. So we can, and I think it's fun to hear our players say that they get spotted in the grocery store, or at the gym or whatever. That's been fun for me to see these guys kind of become community entities a bit, and to see. Um, on the women's side, they're not in market as long, but to see them then go pro and to be able to say, "Hey, look at her. She played in Greenville." We have Hal Hirschfeld, who played for us, who's now earned caps with the national team. We have a handful of players, um, playing pro both in the U.S. and around the world, and to know that Greenville is a part of their story, and to be able to tell that story to people in Greenville. We were a stepping stone to, her turning professional. I think it is a really cool opportunity for us.
Let's talk a little bit about your footprint, because as you mentioned at the start of the interview, you're sort of sandwiched right in between Atlanta and Charlotte, which have each become MLS markets. And it's interesting because in professional sports, we don't necessarily see clubs like this sort of forming out of the blue. There's minor league baseball, but that had been around for as long as Major League Baseball, more or less. But you don't really see that with other professional sports leagues, where you just sort of have smaller clubs popping up and contributing to the overall growth of the sport. But as it relates to being in that market where you're overlapping with multiple MLS clubs, did they help you at all, sort of lifting the profile of the sport? And how did the old saying goes, a rising tide lifts all ships, and was that the case here?
Yeah, definitely. As I kind of mentioned earlier, like, I think a lot of the Atlanta success helped kind of plant the seeds in Greenville. For us, 2018, I remember going down to an Atlanta game. A lot of our fans were frequent, attendees of Atlanta games, and later Charlotte. I think what impressed me the most was the sense of community within the soccer world, and the lack of wanting to compete. Now, I would probably tell a different story if there was a team closer, if there was a team in a rival, Division 3 league or something. But in 2018, Atlanta opened their doors for our team president, Chris Lewis, and myself, and other members of our organization. Darren Eels, who was the president at the time, who now I believe is back. I want to say he's back at Newcastle. Um, Darren could not have been more helpful. Came down, met with us for a while. Their president of the business side too, came and met with, or let us meet with them. We traveled to Philadelphia to meet with the union. We traveled to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania to meet with Bethlehem Steel. We talked to a number of organizations that sort of short of opening their books would would tell us everything we wanted to know, and helped us talk about some of the things they did on the fan side too, not just the business side. And then it's kind of been fun to just see the connections made beyond that, because Charlotte started, and we Charlotte was, even though they're a little closer to us in Atlanta, they were a little further away. We didn't know anybody there, but now their manager is Dean Smith, who is the father of Jamie Smith, who played for us for a couple seasons. So we've got a great relationship with Dean, who's just an absolute salt of the earth guy, as is Jamie. It's just a fantastic family. So we've got that connection Charlotte FC now through Dean and Jamie. And we also, I would consider, they're not competition, but the only other competition from a pro team standpoint in the state, Charleston Battery, which is the level above us. They're people we talk to all the time, have a great relationship with. We're only competition with them on the field, but great business relationship with them. We help each other out a lot in business initiatives, also in working with, hopefully working with our state legislature to help get some fundings for both of our stadiums, loaned a player from them this year. So again, I think it's just that they've all been willing to help, and help has come in different ways, but there's definitely a rising tide lifts all boats feel to soccer. I think especially in the South, as we all try to educate this part of the country on the game, where it hasn't historically been. And I think our fans and the community has responded to that. And I remember the luck of the draw of getting to welcome Charlotte FC to Greenville in the Open Cup, to play them, and to sell our stadium out and do it about 60% Triumph fans and about 40% Charlotte FC fans was such a cool moment for us. So it's something we continue to tap into, not just on the technical side, but on the business side. And it's great to have them in our backyard and know that they're invested in helping us get better.
That's awesome to hear. And I think it is important, especially in the South, where you have a lot of clubs, like you said, building awareness, trying to build engagement, trying to go their own way, but also making sure no one gets left behind, because everyone's success will be shared. And it's not like that everywhere in the United States. We know that for sure. But I think it is really interesting to see, because there's probably a lot more opportunity throughout the South, just as far as you have some minor league baseball, there's some minor league hockey, but you don't have all of these professional teams back to back to back with each other. Whereas you go to the Bay Area or Los Angeles or Chicago, and you have like all of these teams clustered together, you can drive for some time and hit nothing. So I think that's a really fascinating part of the South soccer journey, and just everyone sort of contributing to each other's success.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things, kind of like about that, is so our territory given to us by the league covers upstate South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson is our metro area, and it actually includes Asheville, North Carolina, which is just across the state line, an hour north. So, there's this. Well, would you want a team in Asheville? Would they compete? They're kind of in your territory. Hell yeah, I'd want a team in Asheville. That'd be an awesome rivalry. And there is a League Two and a W League team in Asheville. We got a great rivalry on the W League side. We got to play their League Two team in the Open Cup this year, and I know they're looking to go League One down the road, hopefully. But to your point, there are a lot of untapped markets. Columbia, South Carolina, which is an hour and a half away from here. Am I afraid if they get a team? No, I want them to have a team. As we can start to build these rivalries, I think the next biggest growth point for our league, Cheyenne, is getting more of those away days that are easy drives. That'd be huge.
That would be, and that's one of the things that I've championed for. For as long as I can remember now, and talking from my experience in Northern California, when we had Reno, Sacramento, Oakland, Monterey Bay, and Reno's no longer with us, sadly, but it really adds just something that's unique, where you're interacting with one another. You're not just going to away games, but you're all in it together, and having that in the Carolinas and I mean really anywhere in America would be such a awesome addition, and it's refreshing to hear you sort of say it's not about competition, it's just about finding the success for the sport of soccer.
Yeah, yeah. We're, again, rising tides, right? We're all interested in success, and I think it would help our success to have a couple more teams closer because it would make it. It would just the level of fandom would be able to go through the roof. Right now, our we have one opponent on the men's side that's within 2 hours, and that's Charlotte Independence, and you know even that on if you get a weeknight game or a Friday night game is still kind of a tough drive. But I know our supporters would love to be able to scoot up to Asheville, scoot down to Columbia, and I love when we have visiting fans and supporters. It improves the game day atmosphere. It challenges our supporters to get a little louder, supporting us, and we don't get that enough right now. And I know we're working towards that. And USL's done a really good job of growth, but for us, that is the next big key is more of those. We say regional rivalries. We have those right now. I want local rivalries. That's the thing that's really going to unlock this league, in my opinion.
And I would totally agree. And seeing what's happening in, on my side of America with Spokane and Lancaster, California, those are all great, but maybe they don't need to be going to the East Coast all the time or heading out to Portland, Maine all the time. It just seems like there's a need for that local rivalries, as you said. I do want to talk a little bit about the Greenville Liberty, your
Sure.
women's side, and just the process of adding a women's team, because obviously you started out with the Triumph and then you decided to bring about the Liberty. So what was that process like? What went into that decision making process?
Yeah, when we started the Triumph, part of the reason we did is because we believe in the game of soccer, which we always say is the most democratic game in the world. Anybody can play it. It's easy to play if you got a soccer ball and then four objects to make some goalposts. You're good to play, and it's one of the few sports that's played equally, same ball, same field, men and women, boys and girls. So I think when we started with the men's team. As soon as we announced that, we're like, okay, we want to do something on the women's side. There weren't as many opportunities right away, or the right opportunities right away on the women's side, but we knew it was something we wanted to do. We had talks about it in year two of the Triumph, or I guess year one on the field for the Triumph, and then COVID hit, and that kind of delayed our plans for a little bit. And we had talked to some other leagues, but it just wasn't the right opportunity. So when we found out that the USL was going to be launching the W League, we thought this is it. This is strong league backing. We know it's set up for success. Let's do something on the women's side. So coming out of COVID, we were able to launch in 22. We've had the team for 4 years now. Would love to look as one. Do we want to take it pro? I think as we look 5, 10 years down the road, of course, we're very interested in that. We got to get the stadium thing sorted first. That's been the biggest hang up. We can't do that in a temporary stadium, but yeah, it's something that we were passionate about from the start. We had to wait a little bit to find the right opportunity, but I don't think uh, we downgrade the Liberty in our mind because they're not fully professional yet. It's something that it was important for us. We wanted to give the women's side its own brand, something that girls and women could aspire to, that could call their own. And we're excited about the growth of it. Even though we've been in the same league for 4 years, the growth we've seen and how Julie Carlson, our head coach and technical director on that side, has worked to kind of make it a sustainable program in the face of of something that's hard to do in terms of sustainability because you turn so much of the roster over. The first year we were mostly D1 college players, and sure we had some youth, some D2, D3, but now we've got more of a base where we've integrated the pathway to pro on the youth side, or the pathway to pre-pro, I guess in this case, on the youth side. We got a lot of high school players and youth players playing for the team now, and you're starting to see We took a step back on the field after the first year, but now we're building back, and that team's getting stronger, and the roster continuity is better. These girls and women are playing together throughout the year more. They're practicing more in the off season, and we think that the program is going to be set up for year over year success, which is really really hard to do. So we couldn't be more excited about the future of Liberty.
One of the things when it comes to adding a women's team is that it always gets boiled down into this cost benefit risk reward. It always ends up being this financial discussion. But one of the things I sort of learned with the Oakland Roots who added the soul is that there's so much more that comes with having a women's club as part of your organization. So what are some of the benefits, non-financially speaking, of just having the women's team in the fold and having a men's team and a women's team together?
I think it opens you up to new fans. That's something I think that we were pretty surprised by, just how many new fans. We had certainly a lot of Triumph fans that carried over, but also a lot of new fans that had not heard about the Triumph, or kind of didn't care about the Triumph or whatever. And I don't take offense to that, but that were really interested in supporting, a women's initiative, women's sports. Um, you know, I, I think that's great. I think from a commercial standpoint, just as you've seen, across America with the NWSL, with what Caitlin Clark's done, commercial opportunities from sponsors who want to get involved specifically in the women's game, which I think is awesome. So, there are people in our community that have come to us and want to specifically champion the women's game, and we think that's great. And some people want to sponsor that, and maybe sponsoring the Triumph's not for them, or they want to get season tickets to Liberty, and maybe Triumph season tickets are not for them. That's fine. We're happy to have you interact with any part of our organization. So that's been great for us. I think that from a front office standpoint, it's something different to work on. It's a different identity. For me, from a brand building marketing side, it's something that can take on a life of its own. And the mission is shared, but the way we live it, the community programs that we do, might look different, might be tailored more to girls and women on that side, but it's been a really fun opportunity. It's exhausting. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. When we get to May, June, and we have 6, 7, 8 home matches between both teams. We do back to back. Sometimes it's a grind, but we enjoy it. And I think, again, it's been so fun to watch the program go, and to know that we're giving so many opportunities to youth players, to college players. That's been really rewarding for everybody involved in the organization.
And both will continue to grow in lockstep, and it's something that allows you guys to just tap into different opportunities. The soccer support Venn diagram isn't all one big circle. There are a lot of separate sides, and as you mentioned, that does sort of allow you to bring in different fans. One thing people may not realize about the Greenville Triumph is your sort of connection to some very important figures in soccer history, at least recent soccer history. John Harkes was your head coach for many years, really helped build the platform for the technical side to grow on, the on-pitch team to sort of go on to bigger and better things. And then Ronaldinho, yes, that Ronaldinho is part of the ownership group. These aren't people you would associate with upstate South Carolina. And I mean, Harkes did have some local connections to that region, but what was it like having someone like John Harkes being your first coach, or someone like Ronaldinho wanting to be a part of this club? I mean, what does that mean for not just the professional soccer in Greenville necessarily, but just the entire sport in upstate South Carolina?
Yeah. I think credibility, from what does it mean for the organization? That is the thing it provides. And from the start with John, that was not from the upstate, but had upstate ties with his eldest daughter playing soccer at Clemson, and his youngest daughter at Elon in North Carolina, not too far away, and his son playing at Wake. So they were familiar with college soccer in the Carolinas, and John's wife Cindy playing at UNC. So we met John through the Clemson connection, and obviously the name John Hart's synonymous with the '94 World Cup, with soccer in the U.S. Really one of the pioneers of making the kind of first golden generation of making that breakthrough for soccer in America. So he brought that credibility, but I think more importantly, what John did is John played in MLS. John played abroad. Was one of the first Americans to make noise in England. So John had a very high standard and was challenged us a lot, and I mean that in the best way possible. Is the credibility that he provided also asked a lot of us. John asked a lot of us. He wanted the best for our organization, and we wanted the best for our organization. So having someone like that who was such a good source and challenge, person who could challenge us to, as we're building this team, let's build it the best we can be. I think if you look at the trajectory we've had, not just on the field, because John did a fantastic job on the field for us, but what he was able to do and push our organization to do off the field, we're forever thankful for that. And just a hell of a good guy too. Somebody that I'm proud to consider a friend, and still get to talk to, and ask questions of, and vice versa. And so he brings that credibility, allows us to build a solid base with the soccer community, not only locally but nationally and internationally, and allows us to use relationships again with one of our one of the members of our ownership and board, Wallace Cheese, who is a Greenville guy, but has connections to Ronaldinho from his time in Brazil. Ronaldinho, a man like John, who needs no introduction in the soccer community, that was interested in getting involved at kind of the grassroots level, and growing the game. And Ronaldinho is somebody who's had a lot of business success since he retired, and still such an important figure in the world of soccer. Just truly a transcendent figure in the game. It speaks to, while John created the credibility, Ronaldinho's investment, I think, speaks to what we've been able to do, but what we're continuing to try to do. And what I so appreciate about both of them is these are just guys that, since they've stopped playing, want to give back to the game that's given them so much. And I feel like you just see that in soccer a lot more than some other sports. You see ex-players getting involved at all levels of soccer in America. And I think John and Tab Ramos and Tony Miola, they all do it in different ways. A lot of these guys, they just want to get back to the game and help it grow. And they were the guys who really helped start the growth in the game. So that's really cool to see. And I think we're honored to have been beneficiaries of that.
That is, like you said, that's really cool to see. And just looking at soccer in America, I mean, it's still very early doors. We can be a little impatient about it, but we're still a ways away off from realizing the full potential that soccer in America can hopefully have one day. Speaking of the future, we talk about next year, new stadium, World Cup. That should hopefully be a catalyst to more growth. But let's say a little further down the line, what does the future hold for the Greenville Triumph and the Greenville Liberty?
Well, on the men's side, there's that P/R phrase that's coming up that we're pretty excited about. Promotion relegation has been something that was pitched to us as a concept within the USL, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And do we want it? Hell yeah, we want it. And it's easy for us to say because we'd be at the bottom, at least initially. So for us, from the start, it was promotion at first.
Nowhere to
Um,
go but up.
exactly. So of course we're going to be interested, but with as to what that can do for the growth of game in America, and without getting into the soccer wars and MLS's role in that, that's not for me to litigate. Um, just having promotion relegation in any capacity in America is going to turn the eyes of the sporting world onto the U.S. So we think that's an awesome opportunity. I think what that's going to do for franchise value, for sponsor interest, from supporter interest, you name it. I think that's going to be just as impactful to us as having the World Cup here next year will be. So it's about how do we position ourselves, excuse me, to hit the ground running when that opportunity comes to fruition. I know it's a couple years away, still being worked through. Right now, we have to help the USL grow their leagues so that they're in a healthy spot, and we have enough teams in each to be ready to do that. And the way we can help grow the leagues is be successful in our own market, and be successful from a business standpoint, so more people want to get involved and start teams. And then on the Liberty side, uh, I think we don't know exactly what directions the women's game is headed, but we know it's growing rapidly. So that's kind of we're excited to see again once we get set in our stadium what kind of professional opportunities are there for the Liberty. We know of a couple, already. The USL is now operating a professional women's league. We know there's the WSL as well. And I don't think we've seen the end of teams and leagues popping up on the women's side. So again, it's all about trying to continue to grow our foundation, our base, be successful in our community, so that when these opportunities are presented to us, we are ready to dive in head first. And it's really fun to be part of two equally rapid but different in how they look paths of growth, both on the men's and women's side of soccer in America.
That's a great way of putting it. This is a fun time. I think this is going to be a time, hopefully, we look back on for American soccer and go like, it was a little like the Wild Wild West.
Oh, yeah.
Like it wasn't perfect, but you could kind of see that everyone was heading in the upward direction, and things were getting to a place. Hopefully by 2030, 2035, we'll have promotion relegation, and we'll have local rivalries, and the sport will just be reaching new heights, setting new records year over year. And it'll be a wonderful thing for the sport of soccer in America.
Definitely.
Is there anything you want I don't want to say world, but is there anything you want someone watching this video to know about what you guys are doing in Greenville or your clubs? Or, I mean, I never really know because you guys have so much going on. It's hard for me to boil everything down, but is there anything you feel like the viewers should know about what you guys are doing right now?
I don't even want to make it about us specifically. I think there are going to be plenty of people out in the market that watch just support local. Go see your team. I guarantee you've got a team. If you don't have one in your city, you got one close by. They might not be. They might be at a level above us. They might be an MLS team. They might be below us. They might be an amateur team. But go support them. It's so much fun. I think one of the things that I wish that I personally got to do more was go to away matches for both teams. That some of it is just candidly is exhaustion from when we've got teams on the road. I need a break on the weekends too, but getting to go to a couple other League One cities, a couple other W League cities. I've gotten to go to Madison a couple times. Incredible experience. I really want to get up to Portland. I've gone down to Statesboro, Georgia, but each environment's unique. There are charms of each, and I just think that it's one of those. It's one of those things that I feel like the hardest part is telling yourself to go. You know about the team. I'll get out there at some point. I'm really bad about doing this in my own town with our baseball team and our hockey team at the start of the season. Oh yeah, well, season's starting. I got to get out there soon. And you can always think of an excuse to not go. But when you get there, I promise you're going to have a good time. I feel that strongly about the Triumph and Liberty. Like I said, I think if we can get you out to the first game, I know you'll come back to a second game and beyond. So that's the big thing, is just opening that opening that door and helping the people walk through it.
No one ever regrets going out to watch their local team play. Like I've heard one person complain. I won't tell you the club, but it was really, really hot. That's all I'm going to say. But beyond that, anyone
I
you
might have
ever
been
talked
us.
to,
Ours are really, really hot, but no.
this was a different type of climate hot. It wasn't
Okay.
a humid hot. It was
Gotcha.
a dry heat, if you
Yes,
will. Yeah.
understood.
But yeah, no one ever regrets going out to see their local team play, because it's some of the best fun, and it's such a, and you talked about the experience and how you've made it local, and every team for the most part does a good job of making it unique to their locale. And there's just such accessibility about it, where you can just it feels like you can reach out and touch something real, and without sounding like an uber millennial here, there's just something very authentic and something really fun about that. So yeah, if wherever you are in America, go check out a game, because you're not going to regret it.
Yeah, well, very well said.
It remains to be seen just where this journey does take the Triumph and Liberty, but it is a story that's certainly worth watching, because if they can be successful with professional soccer down there in South Carolina, then you can have a lot of hope and optimism for just about every other club in the United States. A big thank you to Doug for spending some time with me. And until next time, I am Cheyenne Hollis. Thank you for watching the very first episode of the Touchback's World on Sport. And until next time, hashtag take it out to the 25.